Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Julie from Jaguar White Recruitment. Welcome to HR Bullets with Bina and Julie. I'm joined with the wonderful Bina Briggs from Play Talk in HR. We're both based across Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire. We're partnering with clients on HR and recruitment matters. Bina has decades of experience on related issues, supporting companies. And today we want to talk to you about 3 hot topics affecting UK employment today. So let's fire away, Bina, with our 3 hot topics, and let's hear some exciting advice on the 5th of June here as of today.
Right, thanks very much, Julie. And as Julie said, we're looking at 3 hot topics. And the ones that I want to cover are the variation of contract, furloughing employees, and redundancies. And as you know, the times at the moment are such that most of the employers, most of the organizations have had to do something with their employees, with their teams. And so therefore, when the government stepped in with furloughing and gave a rescue package of being able to pay your employees 80% of their wages by the government, obviously that then became a variation of a contract. Now, literally a variation of a contract is exactly what it means. There is a contract between you, the employer, and the employees. And that contract of employment has now going to be changed by you actually putting somebody on furlough, i.e. saying, I have no work for you at the moment, so go home. And for the period you're at home, it might have been a layoff, it might have been paid leave, it might have been unpaid leave. Instead, the government said, we will pay 80% of your wages up to a cap of 2,500 per month and so on and so forth. But at the same time, you would be able to carry on having a business. Now, with a variation of contract, because the people were put on furlough and their terms and conditions changed from their normal contract, you as an employer have a duty to issue that contract, the variation, and that would just say literally what your contract was or has been as a permanent contract and what's going to happen over the next few months, and that's what will be in the variation. It has to be agreed by both parties to start with. It has to be then put in writing and formalized. Yeah, so that's what it's all about on variation of contract.
Okay, and can that be an email, or could it be, does it have to be an official letter?
As long as both have agreed. It's always good to have something as a letter, but if you do it in email and both parties have agreed to it and both parties acknowledge the changes within that document, that's fine.
Yeah, so clients, make sure that you've done that for your employees.
Variation.
Yeah, otherwise, never too late. Just
get it done. And obviously, then we're talking about furloughing.
Yes.
And furloughing, obviously, people that word has been bandied around so much over the last few months. However, it is important to understand what it's all about, and it is about saying that somebody, an employee that you would have normally either said, I can't pay you, you're unpaid leave, or on paid leave, or lay off if it was in the contract. Instead, the government allowed you to say to the employee, you can stay home, but the government will carry on paying, but 80% of their pay. So that is fine. But during the furlough period, a lot of people asked whether the employee can do a little bit of work, like just about answering a few telephone calls or answering some emails. No, you can't. Once you furlough somebody, that means there is no work for that individual, for that post, for that position. And therefore, whilst they're receiving payment, they can't work. And if they work, they can't receive payments, yeah? So, and there is facility now coming up over the months that you can actually take somebody on a part-time basis, so they can come to work on a part-time basis whilst they're on furlough, but they would have to make sure that there is the balance between the furlough pay and when they're working. Yeah,
absolutely. So there's so many days you can furlough somebody and so many days that can work. And there was this question around the 10th of June, wasn't there, to allow the 3 weeks. Tell us about the 10th of June add-on.
So it's basically, you can actually, furlough somebody for a period of three weeks, and then come back again, and then they can carry on working. But also there's part-time working coming in from July onwards, so you can do that as well. Yeah. And obviously the last bit that we don't want to really talk about, but we have to redundancies. That is becoming more and more fact of life at the moment. And the one thing that really, redundancies, obviously there is a statutory process that an employer must follow.
Yes.
And what organizations, employers are getting confused about, or perhaps not quite sure, is when can they actually make people redundant if they are still on furlough? And given that furlough will, in its full terms, will carry on till end of July, but also then there's contributions and so on, and phased in contributions from the employer until end of October.
That's right.
However, the redundancies must, if you're making redundant anybody, then follow the process, and you can do that within any period between now and 31st of October or beyond, if they are going to come back into the company. But please follow the process about consultation. It has to be meaningful. Make sure that you have covered their notice pay, their if they are entitled to due to their service, of course their redundancy pay as well. And you have to have all the meaningful conversations, and then formalize everything in writing at each of the stages. So that's redundancies.
A lot of work, and I think depending on the size of company and how many people you may be making redundancies,
correct,
absolutely different procedures. So definitely seek advice to make sure that you're doing what you need to do. You don't want any sanctions or fines from the government, because they will sort of crack down, I think, on that, won't they? So it's all about doing the right thing. Lots of hard work and admin, but it has to be done.
Yeah, it has to be.
So
redundancies, one last thing I would say is, depending on your size of the company, but it's not that, it's about the number of people, the number of positions that you are going to actually put at risk. And it's based on that as to what the procedure and especially the consultation process will be.
I think 20 is the golden number, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, 20. If you do 20 or more, then you have to, actually fill in the form and all that, notify the government. But at the same time, it's also about consultation and meaningful. If it is obviously covered on, unionized or anything like that, then it again, obviously, there's an additional step to it as well.
Well, we could talk all day because the subject is huge, isn't it, Bina? But if anyone's got any questions, mine and Bina's details will be in the post. If you want to talk about employment contracts, temporary work, HR help, probably more HR help at the moment, please do reach out to Bina. Can highly recommend her. And we will be back again with another update with the 3 bullet points as soon as possible. So thanks so much, Bina, and I'll see you next time, and have a great afternoon and weekend. It's Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday.
Another weekend in lockdown.
Exactly.
It'd be nice not to say this, won't it, going forward? Oh, lovely to see you, Bina. I'll see you next time, and thanks so much. Bye for now.
Bye.